One of the common things people ask me, have you ever overdosed? And they always want to know how many times. And I couldn't tell you, it's been too many. So it's a really unique experience for me, having been a paramedic and responding to heroin overdose on the street, working in the ER for years where we would see people overdose and suffering from consequences of substance use disorder. And then falling into severe addiction and living homeless and experience overdose for myself. So around 2004, I had suffered a kidney stone and went to seek treatment for the kidney stone and wound up being prescribed Percocet. And I distinctly remember taking Percocet and thinking that this was a life-altering, life-changing experience, that I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I remember not so much taking the medication for pain at that time, but I kept it on the side for use for either party or concert or something like that. And that was sort of the end of it. When it was gone, it was gone. It didn't really play a part in my life at that point. But it was 4 or 5 years later that I was going through divorce and became depressed. And I was unaware that I was depressed at the time. It's the first time I had ever gone through that in my life. But in retrospect, looking back, it was clearly depression. And I was working in an intensive care unit as a nurse and accidentally went home one night with some other opioid medication and decided to try it. I don't remember consciously thinking about it, but I'm sure there was a subconscious memory of that this will help you treat that depression. And so when I took these opioids, it fixed my depression. And from being in that depressive state, I wound up using opioids every day, and that quickly transitioned to heroin and led to about 3.5 years of everything that addiction commonly brings. Homelessness, stays in jail, all those kinds of things for about 3 years. What quickly happened for me is, although there was this initial choice where I decided to use drugs, very quickly when addiction really took hold, is I found that I didn't have the choice anymore. I found myself almost watching myself from outside. I was watching the behaviors and just things that I was doing that weren't consistent with my personality or my level of ethics or my moral barometer. Like all those things were way off, but I couldn't stop myself from doing it. So like most people, through my experience with substance use disorder and homelessness and all those things, I lost everything. The first round, I had a house, 2 cars, career, and within 6 months lost all of those things. And I was living homeless with only the things that I had in a little plastic bag is the only thing that I owned. And so then once I got into recovery before and I met my current wife, got remarried, and built life back up, went back to school and have a home and a car and a job and children and have a great life. But I think the biggest thing that I lost through all this was my career. That my whole life since I was 17, I've been in healthcare, either as a nurse's aide, an EMT, paramedic, and a registered nurse. Kind of worked my way through all those things. And I've always loved medicine. I love taking care of people. There's something really special about working in a job where every day your job is to interact with someone who you know that's going to be the worst day in their life. And you have the chance to make it just a little bit better. I contacted the Board of Nursing 1.5 years ago, and I'm in a program. So for a 3-year period, I check in daily and have to do random drug screens, which I'll do for a minimum of 3 years. I had to agree to inpatient treatment followed by about a year of outpatient treatment that was fairly intensive, on top of seeing an addictions medicine doc and a bunch of other things that I have to do. So after 3 years, as long as I complete all these requirements, then my license will be reinstated with restrictions. But it gives me great hope that through all this, I can take about 10 years of struggling with substance use disorder as a patient, coupled with probably close to 15 years of healthcare experience prior to that. I can take all this together and now apply this to being a good clinician and a good caregiver in the future. So everything that I've been through is not for waste. So I think that we've reached this critical point where more lives lost in 1 year than American lives in the Vietnam War. It's really easy to look at them as just numbers, but for me they're friends. Like, their faces, their stories. There's kids that are going to grow up without parents.
This energy that you have all brought, and all of the people back home who helped us with this campaign and helped with so many other campaigns.
I'm one of the people that believes that everybody should be carrying Narcan. I think it should be along with your first aid kit. Over the past year, we've seen a ton of police departments and police officers get trained, and they carry Narcan. I think that's had a huge impact. But we still have a long way to go. There's been, we're starting to see possibly a plateau and possibly a small decrease in the numbers in Pennsylvania. My greatest fear with that is that decision makers will say, okay, we must be doing the right thing. We'll just sustain where we are and we're going to take the foot off the gas. I think now's the time that we need to push it all the way to the floor and continue to go to bring these numbers down. There's no reason that we should have over 100 people a day dying from overdose. We just shouldn't.